So in the 1980s in the UK, there was something called mad cow disease. It's a prion disease, and it infected cows. In the UK, they initially said that these animals couldn't transmit the disease to people, and it's not to worry. Well, it ended up transferring to people and killed hundreds. And the UK ended up slaughtering over 4 million cattle because of this prion disease that we know as mad cow. Well, in the US, there's something that's come about where chronic wasting disease is now infecting deer, moose, elk, cervids, and this disease is spread across the US, and it's centered on Colorado and Wyoming. This disease is fatal 100% of the time to all cervids. The state governments of each of the 50 states have told hunters to get their animals tested and not to eat the meat of an infected animal. And they've never stated yet that this can transfer to humans, but it's consistent in that it says, don't eat the animal. Chronic wasting disease seems to be something that is out of control. State and federal governments don't have an answer on how to control it. And right now, it seems as though there's some type of monitoring going on across the U.S. of these infected animals.
In Washington, Peter Davenport identified one case and attributed it to CWD. Now, he identified a case in the state of Idaho involving hunters that is equally as unusual.
Hi, I'm Chris Bales, and I have a little incident that I ran into on September 27th, the year 2000. Something that most people would never, ever see or believe. We were in Mill of Idaho, out in a pretty remote area.
Who were you with?
I was with my brother Mark and a friend of ours through construction, Rob, and then his dad was with us.
Describe the spot where you were camping.
Hard to get down in, and then when you get down in there, it was pretty tight. Steep canyon and tall timber. And it was kind of a dark hole down in there.
And had you been to this spot before?
We had. We'd been there for several years.
So you knew it well?
We knew it well, yeah.
We had some mules to hopefully usually pack some of the animal out that we harvested.
Describe the day and how it started on this specific incident.
We would start early, like 4 in the morning, drive to a spot and then hike for maybe an hour or 2 in the dark.
Work our way around, spotted elk, try and follow elk, look at some high lakes that we'd never seen before. We never got up in there. We'd try and get back to the vehicles just before dark.
On this date, you guys come back, you fix some dinner. Explain what happened.
I had finished my supper and went out to take a whiz, and was starting back to the trailer, and Chris came out. I was, I don't know, maybe 15 feet from the trailer.
And when I stepped down, obviously, your head goes up, the light went across, hit on something that's right there, and instantly, that it was something that I didn't comprehend whatsoever. And when I saw that, that's when I went down on my knees. I just kind of turned to my right, down on my knees.
Chris looks up and just goes,
holy shit, you guys gotta see this.
I look up and I see what he's looking at.
And I was quivering. I was yelling basically at the top of my voice. Mark came out of the trailer and said that, he heard my voice and he never heard me sound that way before. He runs out and I just point up above. It was huge. It was like a football field, 100 feet, direction, triangular shape,
So how far was the bottom of that craft from you in your estimate?
I would say 80 feet, plus or minus, somewhere in there, above us.
Rivets, panels?
No, that was one of the things that I'm in construction and like detail. I was looking at that and the detail just I couldn't believe. There's no seams, no rivets, no joints. It's all just one perfect surface, and you could just tell it was perfect in every way.
The thing that got me the most was how close it was and no noise, nothing.
No prop wash, no breeze, no exhaust, nothing you could smell.
Zero. And it was a calm night, no wind.
By that time, it's starting to move up, and Mark and Rob both grabbed their binoculars, and we just watched it just float up the draw, just slowly, no noise. Animals didn't make noise.
Those mules never made a sound, and they never made any motion. I mean, like nothing was going on.
We weren't making any noise, just kind of in awe of what's going on, not knowing what it is.
I'm thinking, man, that's sure no airplane.
We actually took pieces of paper and drew up our own pictures and wrote down information.
So Chris, I came across this. Did you draw that?
I did draw this.
Is that what it looked like?
That's as similar as what I could come up with.
What were the black dots outside the
Don't know, I just remember seeing them. Didn't seem like there was anything.
And was the red dot painted, or did it glow like the white?
It glowed like the white disc.
Did the white lights also protrude from the bottom?
It looked like maybe they were semi-domed, but it was not really pronounced, like the drawing, you draw that. It was more of white fog, circle, not really any sharp edges or fine detail.
Could it have been watching Rob? Could he have been a target for abduction, and Chris coming out of the trailer thwarted that abduction? Triangular craft like this have been seen around the world, including most recently by our own U.S. military pilots. That night, did you stay in camp?
Tried to, but just couldn't bring myself to do it.
Did you get to know anybody else who lived in that general area and ask them if they'd seen something like this?
There was people that we knew that were in there. So Mark kind of hedged on, well, you guys ever seen anything kind of different, at some point or anything like that out in the valley? And so a little conversation about it. I just we're standing in the middle of the dirt road, and I pulled my boot down and said, well, did you see something like this? And started to draw a triangle with my boot in the dirt, and I drew a straight line, and the guy standing next to me took his foot, pushed my foot away, and he finished my drawing for me on that. And that was, there was nothing said or anything, but that he finished my drawing.
Is that some sort of validation for you?
Well, it made me feel like, okay, other people have noticed this. And so, yeah, I guess it's a validation.
So it did affect you.
Oh, it did. I guess I'm vacillating, maybe.
Since that night in 2000, anywhere that you've been out, have you seen other unidentified things in the sky?
No.
How about Mark or Rob?
No, same thing. Never really seen anything that even would have guessed at it.
So Rob, there's going to be people that watch this, and they're going to say, I don't believe it, it didn't happen, these guys are...
I'd be one of them.
You'd be one of them.
Yeah.
So if you saw this story, you wouldn't believe the guys?
Well, I'm skeptical. But I saw it.
And how many times have you gone back to that same site since?
The exact site?
Yeah.
Never.
When we talk about the triangle UFO sighting by the hunters, I didn't realize at the time, but its location on a map coincides with the first documentary I did called Missing 411. And it involved the disappearance of Dior Koontz. And when I look at a map, directly east of the sighting of the triangle by the hunters is the exact location that Dior disappeared. Now, when you think about the vastness of the wilderness, what are the chances that these two incidents happened in such a close proximity to one another? But also looking at the map and my case files, it also coincides with the disappearance of Ray Jones. Now, Ray was a 39-year-old service station owner in Salmon who disappeared 53 years ago on a hunting expedition with friends. They separated, Ray disappeared, and for 53 years he wasn't found. Now, a group of hunters that saw the triangular UFO, their dad actually knew Ray. And so every time they went out and hunted this area, they said that they were looking for Ray as well. He wasn't found. And then he's found this year at the bottom of a boulder field in an area that had been previously searched dozens of times. Suddenly he's found there. And when you map these three incidents, you have a very neat triangle, which weirdly coincides with the shape of the triangle that was drawn by the hunters.
When an investigation starts to push the limits of standard everyday police protocol, I start to look for professionals on the outside that can assist me. I'm someone who's not so stubborn as to admit what I don't know. And at this point, I looked for professional help in the name of retired FBI agent John D'Souza.
My name is John D'Souza. I was an FBI special agent for 25 years. I've worked all types of cases, counterterrorism, violent crimes, paranormal cases as well. And I'm pretty well known for that sort of thing.
Now, your background to me is interesting because you've worked a variety of criminal cases.
I worked the Unabomber case. I worked 1994 World Trade Center bombing.
The biggest case you ever worked.
It would have to be 9/11.
John, how many times have you testified in front of a U.S. court for a U.S. attorney?
Maybe like 100 times.
And how many times has the court decided that you're an expert in a certain area?
Probably every time I've testified.
I can't think of anybody who's in a position more to tell the truth and with great things to risk than you.
Yeah.
I've had agents in the past say, well, Dave, if there's a series of events that all kind of line up similar to what you've written about, meaning me, then those agents could be forwarding those reports to a profiling unit, and they're putting the pieces together to see if there's connections.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true too.
So who would be directing those agents?
It could be Washington. It could be profiler unit, behavioral sciences unit.
Are there subject matter experts on UFOs, aliens, abductions?
Well, that's what I was while I was in the FBI.
And what was your conclusion in general about these people that claim abductions and disappear and come back?
We report on the ones that we talk about. Those are real. And I do believe that they are connected to extra-dimensional beings that come from outside of our reality.
In many, many of my stories, families in the woods, children are right next to them. Everything's fine. They turn around 1 second and the kid's gone. They're not anywhere to be found. And the statement from the parents is they were right there. and then the next second they're gone. Now, if that is true, that really does answer a conundrum about how they can disappear and nobody can realize it.
Right. The time period is so short that their disappearance is not possible in our purely physical world.
So when you investigated something like this, were you ever questioned later on by other departments or other agencies?
No, not by other agencies, no.
Departments?
No, they don't want to know this sort of thing as much as they can avoid the knowledge of this. No.
Long time ago, this is back when I was a policeman, and there were some FBI guys that were working a case on something else. We were talking about, I don't even think it was anything spooky or paranormal, but it was something unrelated, and the agent said, Dave, our government will never acknowledge what they can't control. And I always remembered that statement. You believe that?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. They can't acknowledge it if they can't control it, or even if they think they can't control it.
Wow, what could I say? John D'Souza fits your typical model of an FBI agent, and I've dealt with several during my years in law enforcement. Ultra credible, tons of experience, a stand-up guy who's speaking the truth. And during my time sitting in his office, you probably couldn't tell, but I was in stunned silence, just listening to how he laid out the groundwork for so many issues related to our work. And he brought instant credibility to an arena where a lot of people don't even want to address. John's statement about parallel dimensions, his overview of missing people, and his statement about our work all fell right in line with the 1,500 people I've documented in the last 12 years. But that brings up one of the cases that has continually sat in the back of my mind, and that's the incident, the disappearance of Reinhard Kirschner in Arizona. So this is the spot. In April 2007, Reinhard Kirschner made his way from Germany. He was a physicist. He drove his rented camper truck here, parked it, and started to hike. He'd been here before, and he liked it. Reinhard didn't make his meeting with his girlfriend at Las Vegas McCarran Airport. She called search and rescue. He eventually found his truck parked here on Navajo property. Started to search. Several days, they found nothing. They know that he took his camera, he took a small backpack, and he walked into oblivion. Interesting part of the case was, while the sheriff was at his truck, there were some local ranchers that walked up and talked to him. And these people said that during the time Reinhard was gone, they had seen unusual lights in the sky here. And what is important about that to me as a law enforcement person is that they put that in the report as credible. His girlfriend eventually flew home to Germany. It's been over a decade. Reinhard and his property has never been found. What compelled Reinhard to this location? The case remains open, and we may never find answers. There is one particular case where credibility and evidence merge in one of the most bizarre cases I've ever investigated. One where the hunter reappeared with a story that tested the limits of believability, that captured my imagination, and strangely, physical evidence.
My name is Carl Hinton, and this is to talk about an incident that happened in 1974. So I told my wife I was going to go south and go hunting.
What percentage of the time that he went out hunting did you go with him?
Always.
Except this time.
Yes. Carl and I are together mostly 24/7.
So on October 25th, 74,
He went out by himself completely.
was that a rare occasion?
Yes, very rare.
So that area where this happened, had you ever been there before?
No.
Describe the best you can where this happened at. Which forest were you in?
Medicine Bow National Forest. The area that this happened in was back to the north, right at the edge of the forest. So I got inside the national forest. I walked down, maybe 3/4 mile. I seen 5 elk. But they didn't move. That was another strange thing.
That what? Say that again?
They didn't move. They just sat there.
Carl entered the woods, lined up on a series of elk. He even said that the elk weren't moving. Leveled his rifle at the animals, pulled the trigger. He says his gun went off. The bullet came out the end of the barrel and hit some type of invisible force field and dropped to the ground. That bullet was recovered by Carl and later analyzed, and it did hit something. What we don't know, but the unusual nature of the travel of that ammunition is so odd that I've never heard of it in any type of research before. Give me as much detail as you can on that craft, Carl.
Well, it was like looking at a piece of glass. Only it had borders around it. I couldn't figure out what it was to start with.
So when you're looking at the cube, can you see through it and see forest behind it?
Yes,
Was there anything in the cube?
not that I could see.
So it was just like a glass square on 4 sides, 7 foot by 5 foot, with nothing inside it, and you could kind of see through it.
Right.
What did you think when you first saw it?
I didn't know. I just kind of stared at it because it was unusual. And this guy showed up and asked me if I was hungry. Told him yeah. So this package of 4 pills drifted over to me, just like it was thrown at me. I took one. Next thing I know, I was in this cubicle, but it looked a lot bigger. Spot of elk behind me. I said, "You got my elk?" He just looked at me and shrugged. Told me what his name was, Ozo. And they were down to get food. I said, "You guys always come down?" He said, "Yeah. We come down every so often. We get elk, deer from here, and go to the ocean and get fish and take it back."
This is a drawing that Carl drew in the hospital, and the being had like a hand that was a cone, and no hand here, and his hair was like straw. And
So this is a very descriptive drawing. What are these little things?
this is kind of an apron, and it shows where the kind of where the land is in his planet.
Did Ozo seem to have a personality?
He seemed to, like, when he talked to me, his lips never moved. I mean, it was back and forth. But he seemed like he knew a lot.
What color was his suit?
Black.
Black.
The entire suit was black.
Completely black, because our sun burns them. So they have to wear black, and they wear like a scuba diver's suit. Covers them completely.
Did Carl ever say if he only had one hand and didn't draw the second?
Yes, he did not have another hand here, but he had like a cone over here.
Carl ever have an opinion if this was a male or female?
He figures it was a male.
Male.
And then this is a picture of the craft. And this was the controls. This is where Ozo sat. And this is where Carl sat. And There was still 5 elk in here also.
Then we licked it off, and then I could see it looked like a ball down below. I figured it was the earth. I didn't know it.
And he was taken to someplace that could best be described as another planet. They took him behind the screen and eventually said, "We don't need you. You don't fit what we need." The implication of Carl being is that he had a vasectomy and they needed somebody that was 100% fertile.
I said, "What? I gotta go home." He said, "Don't worry, somebody come get you." They dropped me off, inside this hill and rolled down it.
This is a critical point. When Carl explained that he was dropped, I have investigated hundreds of cases with unusual circumstances that show that someone was dropped into that location. This isn't something that's normally talked about in your investigations. A lot of times it's just pushed off as happenstance and an accident that the person fell into the place. There's much more to this, and Carl has explained it.
It was after I got off work. I felt the need to go to him. I felt that he needed me, that I had to go help him.
So you get out there, you have the sheriff there, and everyone's looking. You're sitting on the hill, and you eventually get told that they found Carl.
The deputy sheriff got out of the pickup, crouched down with his gun, ready to shoot Carl if he had to, because we did not know what was going on.
So from visually looking at Carl then, did it even seem like it was your husband?
He kept looking out through the windshield and saying, "My elk, my elk, they took my elk, they took my elk."
Who did you think they were?
I had no idea what he was even talking about.
So at the hospital, they do a full examination.
They checked him over with a fine-tooth comb. First, they wanted to know if he was on any drugs. He was not. And when I asked him, Dr. Tonko, about the spots on his lungs, he said, "What spots? There's no spots."
And in the x-ray, they found that his lungs were completely clear, which was highly suspicious and unusual because Carl had tuberculosis scars on his lungs. So something happened while he was gone that cleared that up.
At the time, did you think that maybe something happened on that ship that they made you pure and clean?
No, I think it was when I was behind the shield there, because that's when he said, "You're not what we want, we'll take you back." And I figured it was because of my vasectomy, but I'm not sure of that.
If it was because of the vasectomy, was the insinuation that if you didn't have one, you weren't coming back?
That's what I gathered.
So Carl insinuates that the entities didn't want him because his reproductive system wasn't intact. Now, if it was, we probably wouldn't even be talking about this story.
So I read a name, and you can explain this to me, Dr. Leon Sprinkle. How did he come into the picture, and what did he do?
He was a psychologist, and he was with the University of Wyoming, and he studies UFO people, contactees. He could not say that he actually believed him, but he couldn't say that he did not. Carl took a lie detector test. In fact, he took 3 or 4 of them.
What were the results of those?
He's telling the truth as he believes.
I don't know what other people think, but if they don't believe it, they don't have to. I mean, everybody's their own opinion. I know what happened to me.
I'm Richard Beckwith. I am the city attorney for the city of Rock Springs. I'm also the state director for the Mutual UFO Network, and I have been a practicing attorney for the last 26 years.
Kind of give us a general overview of what MUFON does.
We are a worldwide or global organization dedicated to the study of UFOs for the benefit of humanity. And I'd like to think that that is exactly what we do.
An incident that I interviewed the victim about was a man named Carl Higdon.
I do remember that taking place. I think I was 14 years old when it happened.
I'd like to know your thoughts about it.
Well, first of all, I don't think that Carl was lying. I know Dr. Sprinkle very well, Dr. Leo Sprinkle. He investigated that case and did some hypnosis, some regressive hypnosis with Mr. Higdon, and his impression of the case was that Mr. Higdon was telling the truth, or at least what he believed to be the truth.
So some of the things about that case, to me, reeked of credibility. He had lung congestion and scarring on his lungs before the incident. And subsequent to it, his lungs were cleared. And then the issue about the bullet coming out of the gun and stopping and hitting something and being recovered and even analyzed.
Right. They did examine the bullet and find that it had struck something, and something really hard. It has these physiological characteristics that are just unexplained.
So in your experience and in your readings of people who have been abducted, how does the Higdon case compare as far as the physical evidence?
Most abduction cases don't really involve a lot of physical evidence.
We have the Higdon incident, a hunter, German surname, hunting elk by himself, claims he's been abducted. In that same general area, just last year, there was a guy named Mark Stripmater. You know about that case?
A couple of different things that I find interesting about that case is that here you've got an individual that's the same age, approximately, as Mr. Higdon, also about the same time of year. Mr. Higdon's incident took place on October 25th, 1974, and Mr. Stripmater went missing on October 19th of 2019, almost 35 years exactly to the day, in a relatively similar location.
So we're on Forestry Road 801, and we are in the area where Mark Stripmater was coming to go elk hunting on October 19, 2019 in the Medicine Bow National Forest. And about 200 yards before Forestry Road 830, he pulls to the side of the road for some reason. And there's some theories behind maybe he was pulling over because he saw one of his hunting targets, big bull, across the road, deer, who knows. But he pulls to the side of the road, stops, gets out of his vehicle, and he takes a light coat, a light day pack, leaves his big pack in the car, leaves his keys in the vehicle, and he gets out. Off camera, the search and rescue person told me that Mark was a 15-year veteran outfitter for big game in this area. So he knew the outdoors super well. He knew how to track. And he knew elk didn't walk in a straight line. Elk take off and they wander. So to think that Mark is more than a mile, 2 miles from here chasing an elk doesn't make a lot of sense.
My name is Kim Meese. I was girlfriend of Mark Stripmater when he went missing.
In your view, what made Mark special?
He was just a giving person.
So how comfortable was he in the woods?
Oh, he grew up in the woods. He started hunting as soon as he could, 12, 13 years old.
He knew what he was doing.
Yeah, oh yeah. In the area that he went missing from, where I found his truck at, we never hunted that area. But that morning that he had went out on the 19th that he went missing, I had already made plans to come to Rollins to watch my grandkids. And he knew that there was a snowstorm coming in and I was worried about him. And he tried calling and sent me a text and said that he'd missed an elk and that he was done. So I assumed he was coming back to Saratoga, which is a 40-minute drive from where we hunt from. So I hung out around the house for a little bit and he never showed up, and I left and I was trying to get a hold of him that night to make sure he made it back before the snow hit, and trying to call and texts weren't delivered, phone calls were going directly to voicemail. I hauled ass back up there looking for the truck, and then when I got to that intersection, I looked to my left and that's where I saw the pickup was sitting.
Explain how it was sitting.
It was on the east side of the road facing north.
Did it look like he parked it there?
Yeah.
Did it look out of place to you at all?
Yeah.
It did.
It did. And when I got to it, like I said, it had snowed, and I had to clean off probably 12, 15 inches of snow just to get into it. And when we would hunt, we always left our key in our gas thing. So I was able to get in the truck, and that's when I found his phone and cigarettes, his medication. The only thing that was missing was him and his pack and gun.
So when he texted you last, what did it say?
The last text, it says, I got it 11 o'clock. It says, I'm done, I suck, missed a nice 5-pointer small 6 and a small 5-pointer in a perfect broadside shot, even closer, but I thought I had one down, but walked down to find shit.
So from that, it kind of sounded like he was done.
Yeah, and that's what I assumed, that maybe he was coming back to town.
You find the truck, you can't find him. Do you look around at all, or do you just call sheriff?
No, I walked around the area just to see if I could see any track or anything, and I didn't see anything. So I came back to Saratoga and called the sheriff's deputy.
So right off the bat, we came in, the first day we came in with a whole bunch of ground pounders, and we just went shoulder to shoulder and walked timber. And then we went around and picked a different spot near the truck and chose a different direction and started pounding more timber.
That initial search, how many days did it last?
The first time around, I think, was 7 days, if I'm not mistaken. So like I said, we were gone for the first 2 days of it, and then when we got back, we took off and looked for him. And I think total I had 5 days in it.
And was there a subsequent effort to find?
We did go back this spring. We spent a full day with quite a few resources out and 3 different dog teams.
Did your canines hit on any scent anywhere?
I never had a hit.
How odd is it not to pick up any scent?
Very. As much ground as we covered and as many different wind patterns as we hit, you would think, law of averages, you'd at least get a head turn out of it. Somebody should have at least tripped over him, the amount of people we've had out. And we flew drones in the canyon. Well, 3 of the canyons, we flew drones in them.
Did you have any other kind of air support?
We did. We had Civil Air. Last fall we had Civil Air in, and they flew for us for a couple days.
Was there any evidence anywhere of animal predation?
You know what? We tracked one bear to see where he was going to go. But the only other thing I noticed is we never had birds during that search.
And birds are an indicator of?
A body.
You can kind of hone in onto it by the birds.
Yeah, and I mean, I run dogs. I'm a firm believer in dogs, but at the same time, if the birds already have eyes on him, that makes it a lot easier.
And how odd was this search?
Very. Most people have kind of a pattern. I mean, if you're out hunting and you see an elk, run across the road, you're probably going to go find a spot to actually park, not just pull to the edge of the road and jump out.
How difficult would it be for somebody to be lost in there?
If you really want it out, everything around here, you just walk downhill until you find a road.
And you'll eventually hit a road?
Eventually. You might have to cross private property. But if you're worried about dying in the middle of it, who cares?
So in talking to the search and rescue people, I asked them, I said, so is there anything odd about this? The whole thing was odd.
Yeah.
So they said that the canines didn't pick up scent. They didn't see any tracks. They never recovered any of his property. The weather changed the next day, and if Mark knew the weather was changing, he wouldn't stay out there.
No.
At what point did you tell yourself, hey, Mark may not be coming back?
After they got done searching, they just said, it doesn't look good.
A lot of people said a lot of strange things about this case. And in your time with Mark out there, did you guys ever experience anything weird?
As far as
Anything weird?
he was out hunting deer during the rifle, and he swore he saw a UFO out there. he was coming out from hunting, and he just happened to look up and saw, like he said, it was just like hovering, following him, and it freaked him out. And he tried to look at it through his binoculars, but it was getting dark, and it scared him.
What did it look like to him?
He said it was just like a black, it was just black, it was just hovering.
And it scared him.
Yeah, because it was like it was following him out.
Another odd question. Did Mark have a vasectomy?
A vasectomy?
No, he didn't. And did he say how long he saw this thing?
He said it was just following him, and then it just like disappeared.
What did you think when you heard that?
Kind of freaked me out, because he was freaked out.
And he was a pretty calm guy.
Mm-hmm.
And would he be the kind of person that would make up stories like that?
No.
So when you heard that phone, believability 100%?
Mm-hmm. That's crossed my mind too. After he told me that story, maybe there was something out there.
So how many years were you guys together? 13?
13.
And when he disappeared, how would you describe your relationship that previous week?
Normal.
Normal.
Yeah.
And how did Mark get along with your kids?
Fine.
How did Marley take this?
Well, she's having a rough time.
And when you sit and you talk to Marley about it, what do you guys talk about?
She's so sad that he's not here anymore. Yeah, she took it hard. And finally, she just kept asking me after he left if he was coming back. It's hard for me to talk to her about it.
So the $1 million question, what happened to Mark Stripmaker? That same question can be applied to the thousands of other cases I've investigated that follow the same profile points we've discussed here. Families don't have answers. We move on to the next case, and it's something that follows me every day. I have great empathy for the families that are left behind.
I've always been of the opinion that there aren't such a thing as coincidences.
Just east of where Carl disappeared, there was another man named Gustafson, and he was from Minnesota, another elk hunter, and he also disappeared and was never found. Now, he was older, he was in his 70s, also from Medicine Bow, but those three cases were in geographical proximity to one another.
Well, we're in the Medicine Bow National Forest, about 20 miles due east of where the Higdon and Stripmaker case happened. Same forest, different location, right about 8,000, 9,000 feet high up. And this is the location that Charles Gustafson, a 72-year-old man from Minnesota, came out with his family. And on October 11th, 2006, split up from his family, and they decided to hunt different areas. Gustafson went off for the day. He didn't come back that night. His family members got concerned. He was carrying a trailside GPS. He had a compass. He had food. He had water. The interesting part about this gentleman is he had survival training in the military. And so he knew how to live out here in the wilderness. To think that he got out here and he got lost, kind of difficult to understand.
My name is Jerry Colson. I'm the retired sheriff of Carbon County, Wyoming. And in 2006, when Charles Gustafson was here elk hunting, in October of that year, he went missing, and I was the sheriff at that time.
So in the articles, it said that he was camped with, I think, a nephew and some other relatives near Forest Road 111 and 129. Does that kind of ring right?
Correct.
I'd also heard that he had been to this area many times in the past.
Yeah, according to family members, they hunt this area pretty regular.
And what kind of resources would you pull for something like this?
Four-wheel drive and searchers on foot. Requested a helicopter out of Warren Air Force Base in Cheyenne, military helicopter. We would use Civil Air Patrol, so we'd go through air search. And eventually we had searchers on horseback too. Brought in some canines, both cadaver and search dogs. As the time went on, we went with cadaver.
Did any dog pick up a scent trail?
No, nothing that led to Mr. Gustafson.
You searched for, what, a week?
About 6 days. I had to call it off on about the 6th day because of the weather coming in. The helicopters were there till it started snowing and they had to go.
The unusual nature of being lost in the woods and not found, is that unusual?
It's not unusual for people to come lost in the woods. It is unusual and not commonplace for us not to find them within a day or two.
People who watch this will say, oh, you know, maybe this was a case of animal predation. What would you say to that?
I mean, we have bears. I can tell you the whole time I was sheriff, and I worked at the sheriff's office for 39 years. I never remember anybody being attacked by a bear.
How long was it before anybody found anything related to him?
There were some fishermen down there in Rock Creek Canyon, and they were just walking along, whatever, and all of a sudden you look over there, and here's this rifle sitting in the fork of a tree, leaning in the fork of a tree right by the creek. So they picked it up and brought it out and turned it over, and we got it and confirmed to the family it was his rifle.
Was anything else found in that immediate area?
Myself and some other searchers, we went down that area where everything was found. And I actually sat down on the side of the hill there by the creek. I looked over, and about 10 foot from me, here's this fanny pack. It had a water bottle, and I remember that, so it turned out to be Charlie's fanny pack.
So was any of his clothing or shoes or any of that found?
There was nothing other than his fanny pack and rifle. That's all that's been found.
So we have Charles's disappearance in northern Medicine Bow. You have the Strip Vader disappearance just southwest of where Charles disappeared. You also have the Higdon disappearance. On the northwest sector of Cheyenne is Warren Air Force Base. And this is the location that did the air support on the disappearances we marked here. Surprisingly, I found some documents about UFOs being observed by on-duty Air Force personnel at Warren. All three men of German heritage, all three men elk hunters. I had to ask myself, are there other hunters missing from this region that match that profile? Are there any hunters that have gone missing in recent times that kind of match the profile of these other guys?
Yeah, a guy named Terry Metter, who was a teacher here in Rock Springs. I actually knew him, and he was a teacher when I was in high school. And he came up missing when he'd gone out to go hunting.
And the area that he was in, can you kind of explain it to us?
Well, it's very typical of Southwest Wyoming. It's sagebrush, prairie. It's what we call high desert, isolated.
Not a lot of cover.
No.
So where could he go?
You'd have to crawl into a hole.
There are not a lot of holes there.
No, not a lot of caves. I mean, it's open desert.
Anything out there in the middle of the desert that could hurt him?
On occasion, we've had a wolf or two. I can't think of any large predatory animals that would be able to, take a human being and drag him off somewhere.
What would be your thinking on that?
I suppose we could say that there's a possibility he was abducted, but there's no evidence of that. All we know is that he was there, and then he's not there anymore.
This is in the middle of nowhere desert, and his truck was stuck in a ditch, and they searched for a week and they never found him. Do you see any convening of the facts, any assimilation that you could make between all of these guys?
One of the big similarities, of course, is that they're all by themselves, and they're all elk hunting. With the exception of Mr. Metter, they're all about the same age.
In your time as monitoring MUFON activity in Wyoming, have you ever heard of anything similar to this?
These were the cases involving Pat McGuire, who owned a ranch over in the eastern part of Wyoming. And he had a series of incidents, I guess you could say, involving UFOs. And I was fortunate enough to be able to sit in on one of their aggressive hypnosis sessions. And he had some experiences. And he was allegedly told by a race of alien beings that he was to build a well, to dig a well on this location near Wheatland, Wyoming. He took that very seriously. He actually went out and bought himself a tank and he got the motor off it to pump the water out of this well. But he had geologists and all these other folks tell him that he was crazy for wanting to put the well where he wanted to put it because it was just a solid slab of rock. And there was no way he was ever going to get any water. But he insisted that the aliens had told him that there was water there, and by God, he was going to dig that well. And he did.
Boy. And you just said something that is huge to me. So in the United States, we have 64 geographical clusters of missing people that fit our profile points. As unusual as it sounds, right down the middle of the United States, there's an area where there are no disappearances. Several months ago, I got an email from somebody who worked for the government. And he said, Dave, that area of the U.S. corresponds to an area which has been described by the U.S. Geological Survey as an underground water area. It's called the Ogallala Aquifer. And he says, you should see if it corresponds with your profile map. Well, what we did is we overlaid that on top of our cluster map. It's almost a near match, which is interesting. Because of my background with MUFON and UFOs, I also know about underwater submerged objects. And those are essentially just UFOs that have gone to water. And if there was a way to keep yourself hidden, yet make yourself apparent at certain times, it would be by using the aquifer and going out through Wyoming. And when you think about the McGuire incident and the ability of the UFOs to go through the aquifer and up out of his well if they want, and then their proximity in southwest Wyoming to all the incidents we've talked about, again, it's another one of those coincidences that you can't ignore. The Ogallala Aquifer, that covers almost the exact area where nobody is missing. And then I put it in the back of my mind, and I didn't think much about it, but damn, you saying that this person digs a well and it's an offshoot from the Ogallala, and the aliens told him to do it.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Now what's really weird is they tell him to do it, and all the geologists and all those guys tell him that there's nothing there, he's crazy for doing it, and he digs the well anyway and taps in and finds the water. So the crazy guy was right. Now, did the aliens tell him to dig the well? I don't know. Pat certainly believed that the aliens told him to dig the well. The reason for the digging of the well was so that in the event that there was a global cataclysm, that there would be a fresh source of water for the inhabitants of that location when it took place.
Let's put all of this into perspective. If we plot the locations of the Wyoming cluster of missing hunters on a map, this coincides with the spread of chronic wasting disease throughout southeast Wyoming. Chronic wasting disease is decimating the elk and deer populations in this region. All of the missing and abducted men were elk hunters, and all of them disappeared in close proximity to Warren Air Force Base, where numerous UFO sightings have been credibly documented by government officials. We know from the Higdon and the elk abduction cases that these beings, wherever they are interested in North American elk. We can hypothesize that perhaps these beings are monitoring our elk population for what is possibly the worst wildlife disaster in North America. Just northeast of this cluster is Pat McGuire's ranch, where the beings told him to dig a well for water that miraculously was fed by the Ogallala Aquifer. There are no clusters of missing around this property, nor are there clusters of missing in the main body of the aquifer. All the victims in this incident were elk hunting. Each was alone. 2 of the hunters in Wyoming observed a UFO. Canines could never pick up a scent. A UFO in Washington was observed taking an elk.
Carl Higdon observed elk on a UFO. Only one victim was ever found. That was Carl Higdon, who believed he was returned because he had a vasectomy. Let's not forget the first missing person case. Ray Salmon from Harrison Lake, British Columbia. Ray and his wife had seen UFOs in the British Columbia forest in the past. Ray was a hunter. He was German. He was camped adjacent to a lake. Canines never picked up a scent. His clothes and rifle were found on a beach. He disappeared and was never found. It's another incident that is an exact match to the Wyoming cases. As incredible as it sounds, you have to start wondering what is happening here.
There's nowhere to turn, and I don't think we left many stones unturned.
Frustration and fear turns to anger to loss of hope. As an investigator, you do your due diligence. If you can't provide closure in a traditional sense, and the incredible or paranormal may be tied to the disappearance, how do you explain that to a grieving family that you might be dealing with something that is just beyond the normal and the extreme that leads to unknown consequences? It puts me in a difficult situation. It puts you in a difficult situation. When you have families that are missing a loved one, I can't go tell them this.
Exactly.
Who's going to believe me?
Yeah. Yeah, you can't because it's unprovable. It's in a purely physical world. It's just not provable.
Yet eyewitnesses' reports of unexplained events in the skies are increasing exponentially. How many calls do you think you get a year?
I would say between 30 and 100 per day, typically. So, say in rough round figures, somewhere between 20 and 30,000 calls a year.
And the conviction and credibility of those who have witnessed them is unnerving, to say the least.
Believe it or not, I just know what I saw.
A lot of truths are really experiential.
Elk hunters of German heritage are being taken in specific regions in North America. Witnesses corroborate bizarre occurrences in the sky directly related to these incidents. What's left are the words of those who have lost so much and those who return to share their stories. So here's an important question, Carl. There could be millions of people that watch this. If there's one thing you want people to take away from this interview and think about and remember, what is it?
Don't be afraid if you see them. They're not here to hurt nobody. They're here looking for food. They're here to explore. And maybe one day they'll come up and pat you on the shoulder. We don't know that yet. Nobody does.
Pay attention. This episode of the Wi-Fi...
It was the streak. It was the streak seen across the sky, now seen around the world. This, as our 8 News Now investigators confirm, Metro actually set up cameras at this home where a family called 911 claiming to see aliens in their backyard. And tonight, a fierce debate is underway about the legitimacy of an alleged UFO crash. Good evening, I'm Denise Valdez.
And I'm Brian Loftus. Our 8 News Now investigators reporting about terrified members of a local family who told police they had aliens in their backyard. Chief Investigator George Knapp here to piece it all together.
You know, as with all things UFO, the public debate is ferocious and ongoing. Was it all a hoax? Were we duped? Was it all an evil plot, a cover-up, all of the above? We took another look at the hubbub to separate wheat from chaff. The fireball captured on a police body cam on the night of April 30th was real. The American Meteor Society says witnesses reported seeing it all across the West, from northeastern Utah to Southern California. Another Las Vegas resident sent us a video of the same object recorded on her home camera.
Investigation by Nexstar station KLAS.
As the story of the Las Vegas incident spread across newscasts and social media, one of NASA's planetary defense officers weighed in to say it was likely a small meteor that fell to Earth hundreds of miles away from Las Vegas. Police videos obtained by 8 News Now indicate Metro officers were among the witnesses.
One of my partners said they saw something fall in the sky too, so that's why I'm kind of curious.
The appearance of the meteor seemingly triggered the events that followed. A frightened family called 911 and told police they had 10-foot-tall alien beings in their backyard. Officers responded to the home minutes later, interviewed the witnesses, canvassed the area, and cautiously inspected the backyard to look for intruders. One thing noticed by the officers was a circle in the soil. In conversations with us and in a podcast interview, Angel, the main witness, suggested the circle might have been created when an unknown object landed in the yard. Social media sleuths have since pointed out that the circular image has been viewable via Google Earth for more than a year. The family told us by phone they had seen suspicious vehicles with men in black types checking out their home. Turns out there is substance to that. A retired police officer fessed up on News Nation that he spent days staking out the house to see what, if anything, unfolded. What about those reports that Metro installed a special surveillance camera atop the house, presumably to watch for intruders, human or otherwise, or overzealous media? Turns out that's true as well. Metro confirmed as much in a statement to 8 News Now's David Charms. The system stayed on the roof for days. What about the Ring camera video with the weird noise? The main witness, Angel, intimated to us the video was recorded by one of his neighbors, and the audio was from the April 30th UFO crash. It wasn't. The security camera video was recorded in mid-April, according to the man who first posted the clip. He doesn't want his name used, but says the recording was from a fireball that passed over his home in the southwestern part of the valley 2 weeks prior to the alleged alien encounter. The family declined to be interviewed by us, but members have spoken elsewhere and stick to their claims of seeing aliens in the backyard. Dozens of people on social media have analyzed and dissected the images with various claims of aliens spotted in the shadows. Police do not believe this was a hoax call, which could be a crime if done intentionally. In the fervid swamp known as UFO world, our coverage of the story was itself seen as a dastardly plot to distract attention away from a prominent whistleblower named David Grush, who stepped forward around the same time. Grush unveiled his explosive on-camera account on News Nation, which is owned by the parent company of KLAS. In spite of the local news story, Grush's story was reported by news media all over the world. Curses foiled again.
All right. So what do you make of this whistleblower, David Grush?
He first reached out to me about a year ago. We've been in contact ever since. He's the real deal. I mean, he had a distinguished career in the Air Force. Then he went to work for a 3-letter agency you probably haven't heard of, the NGA, which basically tracks everything. In space, in the air, in the ocean, under the ocean, on land. They keep tracks of everything. He has the highest security clearances in our government, and in that capacity, he interacted with something like 2,000 SAPs, special access.
Where is the property? Is that
in the backyard. And I swear to God, this is not a joke. This is actually you certified it.
So there's two people or two suspects that are in your backyard?
Correct, and they're very large. 9 feet, 10 foot around there. They look like aliens to us.
Where is this on your property?
is that?
In the backyard.
My husband is missing. It's been about 3 hours, and I have some indication that he must have planned not to be found. He turned it off and left it behind, which seems kind of deliberate.
That is the wife of retired Air Force Major.
4 calls on an unidentified flying object.
Oh my God, I hope that's a plane.
4 calls on an unidentified flying object.
Oh my God, I hope that's a plane. Oh, Jesus Christ, please be a plane. Oh, please. Oh, wait, are you ready for this shit?
That bit was just a small section in an over 50-minute long audio recording of calls from citizens, police, and a bunch of other people all seeing this giant craft in the sky. So to try to figure out what it was, I'm going to go over the full story, talk to police, and the actual 911 operator that was getting all these calls that exact night.
But the plan is to go over the full recording so we can figure out what happened, and it all starts at Samson. A lot of the calls were referenced to a vacant lot about halfway down this drive, which I think is just up here. And this is the only vacant lot we found, so I'm assuming they were talking about this one.
Let's show off the vacant lot a little. Look at the sky. Like, there's a lot of sky space over here.
I was coming down Samson Drive. It was almost a drive with moon. I don't know what it was. It was a flying saucer or what it was. It wasn't an airplane. 4 calls in on an unidentified object over Liberty.
4 calls.
4 calls on an unidentified flying object.
Apparently the calls started coming in around 12:30 at night.
On the area, checking for an object in the sky. Copy at 30 after.
I do think that's very interesting, because obviously they weren't hearing it, so that wouldn't have got them out their house. I'm assuming it was really bright, because yeah, why would these people be calling that late at night unless they were seeing some crazy stuff?
So I have another report at Samson Drive, and also we've been advised by a caller to the media informed us it was a blue-green object hovering, no noise.
Wait, red, blue, and green? It's Christmas. It's Christmas lights, bro. It was the Grinch. Now, what we're about to listen to, finally the cops get onto Samson Drive, and this is the cop, this is the actual cop talking about seeing this stuff.
996, you advised that you don't see anything. He was advised to be blue and green.
I saw the red. It was like a pulsating light, but it was like normally airplane, but it was
And we were going to talk to this police officer and the 911 operator later, but we still have to go over the rest of the story to figure out all the details.
So what they do now, this is big, this is important. They contact the air base nearby, because they can like look at the radars and be like, oh, do you see anything in the air?
They have no contact with any helicopter or private owned vehicles that might be in the area.
So we got a general description. No sound, bright lights. Some people said green, blue, and red. The police officer just said one singularly large red light.
But this spot was just a small area where people were seeing this bright object. So we headed to one of the next hotspots to get more clues on what was happening this night.
We're now on the path. I believe the officer was probably taken. I mean, he says that he's following this thing. I do find it a little bit weird that it was, some people were saying green and red around Christmas. I hope that one day aliens do come and they do try to kill us and it unites humanity. 10,000 likes and I'll make it happen. Okay. Officer chases it here, but there's also more reports that come in from 5th Avenue that we're about to listen to now.
Oh, it's green, no noise. I mean, it was low flying and took off. Oh, come on. 5th Avenue, are you scared? It's driving up 5th Avenue extension. Now, no, but, oh, Christ, that's not you flying. It came down and just zooped over with a big, glowing object. Well, we got 4 calls on it. The last guy said it was a fighter plane.
So one of the first officers, the one that we hear on the call, is Sergeant Toby Malero. The officer that drives over here, he follows the object, he describes it as the pulsating red light, And then he says his patrol car's electronics reportedly failed during this moment.
Everything shut off in the vehicle. I didn't understand what was going on. My car completely stopped.
So more police officers are starting to get on this. Some of the key search points they look for is Henhide Road and Howland Township Road. So we're gonna head over there, and there's a little bit more of the call that we're gonna uncover.
So this right here is the road that some of the officers go to.
Over a Henhide in Howland Township. They're seeing if they're watching this thing. It goes 50 feet from the ground. There's blue and green lights. Some people said they see a red holding light.
50 feet from the ground with no noise. See me? About 6 feet. Some would say taller than 6 feet, actually. But yeah, 50 feet. Okay, I think that, like, low-key, that tree right there would be a 5-story building. So that's not that high. Like, you could, it looks like you could almost grab it. If I ever see an alien that close to being above me, that's what on my head. I'm like, see an alien up there? Oh, please, oh, please. But yeah, this is one of the last main key places they mentioned.
And that was the gist of the entire recorded 911 call. But we needed more details to figure out what actually happened.
So we headed down to the 911 call center to hopefully get some more clues on what this actually was from Roy Ann.
As you can see right behind us, this is the actual place where she was taking the calls from. All right, so we're here with Roy Ann. Could you just give us a little bit of an introduction, who you are?
I'm Roy Ann. I at the time was Roy Ann Rudolph. I'm Roy Ann Malik now, and I was working midnight shift at the 911 center here in Trumbull County.
So I guess my first question is, that night, how many calls were you getting?
So when it started off, I think I'd already had maybe 6 or 7 calls for just mundane things.
So can you tell me just the full story, how that night went for you?
So when it started, I distinctly remember there was a mother and daughter who called, and they were really upset. There's this light in our backyard. It's just kind of hanging there. I'm like, okay, we'll have somebody check. Everything's gonna be okay. And then probably about 4 to 5 calls later, one of the anchor people called up and says, hey, we just got a call from these 2 women. You know, they're really getting a little hysterical about this. I thought, okay, I'll send somebody because these people are so excited about this. And so I dispatched chief of police and I said, hey, Toby, they say there's this light over like Samson Drive. They're trying to make it sound like it's UFO. Toby gets in the area and he says, all right. He goes, I see a light. I'm going to go and investigate this. Then I check up on him and I check up on him and I check up on him and he's not answering. And now it has validity. And he finally comes back on the air and he says, radio, I'm going to need you to be out with my thoughts for a minute. He goes, call the airport. So I call the airbase and he says, no, I'm looking on the radar and there's nothing.
We called out to the airbase earlier and they said that they hadn't had anything on there.
And again, Liberty and Vienna are probably about 7 miles from where he's at to the airbase. I was friends with some of the Holland guys, and that's where the 911 center is located right now. And I said, hey, everybody's looking at it. I want to see it too. And we get to an area on State Route 82. He stops the cruiser, he grabs binoculars, we get out, and we can see it. And it's above our heads, and it's just sitting. Lights, there's like an undulating light, bright light underneath it. It took off, went east, and it just shot like a bullet. It's not what I see every day living in Liberty.
So we heard on the call that people were saying it was about 50 feet above them. Is that how close it was to you, or was it a lot higher?
It would have had to have been way higher than 50 feet, but it was very discernible. Like you could see there was a shape to it, and it wasn't a plane shape. And again, I thought, well, we're standing here, and it was so quiet, being cold out. And I don't know if you ever go out when it's really cold, just like everything seems kind of amplified anyway. There was no noise.
Completely silent. So were the people calling describing this the same way, or was it pretty different?
No, I mean, the colors were different. How low they would estimate was a little bit different, but everybody was sincerely like, what the hell, I don't see this all the time. You had a genuine level of excitement, and it was very transparent. These people, they were seeing something they just couldn't explain, and it wasn't familiar to them. When it zipped off, it zipped east, but it was like it would have went way past the next city or town. The way it flew, the way it moved, it was incredible. I'd never seen anything zip off like that.
What did everybody kind of think it was?
I mean, those of us who said we saw something, and everybody did that night. I mean, there's no getting around that everybody said they saw. Everybody kind of was like, yeah, I don't know what it was. And it kind of quieted down because you get the old little green man and, you start finding, alien stickers on everything.
You said there's like a formation of lights. What exactly did that look like to you?
whatever the vehicle was, I could see the white part, but you could see there was a light above it, a light below that was kind of at the bottom of it. And what I remember is like blue-green.
Do you think it was a military craft, or what do you think?
That's the way I felt comfortable because, that's explainable. What I saw was not explainable.
I now knew more of the story, and the important part, it was very real that nobody seemed to know what this was. Ryan didn't even really have a theory, it sounded like. But the most convincing part of this entire story was Toby, the police officer investigating it. And I had a ton of questions for him. Did his vehicle actually shut off? What did it look like? Is there anything else that happened that he didn't report? And what happened after this night off all of the calls? So extremely kindly, Ryan connected us to him, and we headed over to talk to Toby. Unfortunately, he didn't want to be on camera, but we were still able to call.
We drove about 18 minutes and we're now in front of the police station. This is the exact police station where Toby would have come from. They got their police cars right over there, so they probably hopped out of there to drive. Hey Toby, thanks for taking the call today. Could you just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about what you did and where you were that night?
Okay, my name's Toby Maloro. I'm a police officer with the Liberty Township Police Department.
So I guess my first question is, how was it like being the first officer there, first on the scene? Like, were you thinking this was just a joke, or were you scared at all, or what was that like?
Well, when I got out of the car and I tried to look at it and I had to shield my eyes, I'm saying, what the hell is this? Yeah, I would say it scared me a little bit. The other departments said they saw what appeared to be a spaceship. I did not see that.
Can you kind of just go through the whole story of you driving there and getting there and everything that happened?
Back in '95, I believe, I was a patrolman. We lived by an airport, it's a military base, so we'll get some calls about people hearing things in the sky or seeing things in the sky. The call came in that they're seeing lights in the sky, so I said, well, let me go check this out. It's probably a plane or something. So the call was on Sampson Drive. I was approached by an elderly gentleman walking his dog. He said, oh my God, it was just over my house. The lights. He said, why don't you just go in your house, relax, everything's okay. I continued down the road about a quarter of a mile. All of a sudden, my whole vehicle, everything shut down. Huge light up in the sky, probably maybe about 100 feet above the tree line. No noise, no nothing, but it was like looking into the sun when I looked at it. I stepped out of the vehicle and I'm standing there, with my hand on my gun going, what the hell is this? There was nothing that I've ever seen before. Probably about 45 seconds, then it shot off. And as it shot off, within 35 seconds or so, I hear all these sirens coming my way. I'm going, what the hell's going on? My car automatically started up. Everybody was coming my way because he said I hadn't responded to the radio for about 4.5 minutes. So we tried to follow the light. Other departments saw it. The 911 center was getting calls from all over the place.
Did the object move like anything you've seen before, like a helicopter or aircraft, or was it something completely different?
If that was a plane, it had to be, the stealth bombers were coming out then, I understand. But the plane didn't. As it went off, it didn't make any noise at all. I mean, what's weird on this whole thing is we did a follow-up probably 2.5 months later, and everyone that was working the airbase that night had been transferred. You couldn't get any information.
So I guess after this night and talking to other officers and just everything you had seen, what were people kind of thinking this was?
A lot of people are into this UFO thing. They thought it was, something from another world. I got calls from all kind of people, some kind of UFO group out of California, I believe. They wanted me to come and share a meeting, and I didn't know it was such a big thing.
I've heard a lot of different descriptions about the lights and like what formation they were in. What was it looking like for you?
It was very difficult to determine the shape. It was so bright. It was actually like, if I would say anything was oblong, it was so intense, Here I have my hand on my gun, like, what am I going to do? I'm going to shoot at this thing.
Do you have any personal theory on what you think it might be, or absolutely no idea?
I actually think that had to do with something with the military. Could have been a plane they were testing out. Could have been something like the stealth bomber. And I've had the opportunity to see stealth bombers fly, and they do not make much noise, but they're there because there's still a little bit of noise. The thing that was strange is nothing was seen in the skies. Now, whether they were lying to us or they were under orders not to say anything, or, you don't know what's going on.
But now that we had all the pieces of the puzzle, it was time to go over the theories and figure out what this likely was. We're now back on Sampson Drive, where it all started. Over the years it's been since this, there's been a lot of theories, and there's been some people that have looked deeply into these theories. So we're gonna quickly go over them. There's one theory that Royanne mentioned to us, but this one's kind of doesn't, I can't believe this one. It was an astronomical / atmospheric misidentification. This makes absolutely no sense. People were trying to tell her and other people that saw it that it was either a star or planet. But this literally doesn't explain anything. This doesn't explain the police equipment going off. This doesn't explain it moving. This doesn't explain it being like large. This doesn't explain anything. Next, some people think aircraft or helicopters. There's some reasons that this couldn't be a helicopter. There's only one helicopter pad in all of this area. And a man named Kenny Young, this dude did like hella research into all of this. He found out that everything was logged for that helicopter, and it was just too far away from where the objects would have been. Like it wouldn't have made sense. Also, he says in fact you would have heard it. For sure. And even the lights, he said the lights, the colors of the lights didn't match up. So it's like absolutely not a helicopter. Next one is what we were talking about. Secret military aircraft. Basically, people think there was a lot of stealth aircrafts that they were testing out. If you really stretch it, that could explain the officers' stuff going off. Maybe they're testing some fucking like EMP and stuff. I don't think it could have been a drone with how long ago that was. So I don't know. That theory is like a 50-50, honestly, to me. Obviously, we have aliens. A lot of people think this was aliens, and like every case, this is something we just can't really prove unless we found some DNA, some slime. Oh yeah, look at that alien egg over there. We could be like fathers to a little alien and raise them. But yeah, those are honestly basically all of the theories. And when you look at the actual facts, I mean, the closest thing you could say is a military aircraft, but even then it's like, some things don't make sense. It doesn't make sense that it was standing still. Like all the aircrafts back then, they're like planes. Unless it was some type of helicopter, but then you would have heard it. But guys, what do you think it was? I'm curious on what you think it is. It's kind of crazy. I think they might have whatever this was at Area 51. There was a raid on this place in 2019, but there was one big problem. It was a joke. Look at these videos. People were smiling. They didn't get any answers. I want to get answers. I'm going to get as many people to show up there, protest, bring thermal cameras, and to raid Area 51. But I can't do this alone. There's one man that shares my same mission, and this man has experience sneaking into some of the most secure places in the world. I want answers! Give me answers! But how are we going to make sure that we actually get answers? People actually show up to this?
Well, 115,000 people in my community already signed up to see this happen. At this point, all we need is numbers.
I need a wish. It's real. I love you so.
The final moments of David Wilcock are now coming into focus, and they paint a deeply troubling picture. According to reports from TMZ, Wilcock made a 911 call on Monday morning, just hours before his death. During that call, he spoke about serious financial problems and ongoing health issues. At one point, he told dispatch, quote, "I need to leave. I will be to the left of the house." Authorities say he refused to clarify whether he was armed or planning to harm himself. Dispatchers, meanwhile, treated the situation as urgent. In audio obtained by TMZ, officers can be heard describing the situation in real time, labeling it a potential suicide. Moments later, the situation escalated. As deputies arrived at his Colorado home, they approached with caution. The threat level was unclear, and backup was called in. Just before officers reached him, Wilcock said something else. Quote, "I'm sorry to put you through this." And then he hung up. Seconds later, deputies saw him outside the residence with a gun to his head. They took cover immediately, issuing commands to drop the weapon. But then a single gunshot rang out. Authorities say Wilcock shot himself in front of responding deputies. No one else was found on the property after a search. He was pronounced dead at the scene. He was 53. Now, with details from that final call emerging, the tragedy surrounding David Wilcock is being seen in a new light, one shaped by personal struggles that remained largely hidden until the very end.
A close friend, who said she had been in contact with Wilcock until April 19, is now sharing stunning details which give a sense of Wilcock's final days before his mystery death. Rochelle Vaughn, who calls Wilcock her best friend, says she is stunned by claims surrounding the UFO researcher's death, revealing he was in good spirits just days before the incident. She says Wilcock's death comes as a complete shock, as the two spoke just days earlier. Amid reports of a possible suicide, the woman reveals that on their final call, Wilcock was excited about the future and actively making plans. Her message has added a deeply personal dimension to the story, raising questions among followers about the circumstances leading up to his death. According to the Boulder County Sheriff's Office, as reported by TMZ, an emergency communications specialist who handled the 911 call believed the caller may have been experiencing a mental health crisis. Deputies arrived at the scene and encountered a man outside a residence holding a weapon. Officials say that within minutes of their arrival, the individual used the weapon on himself and was pronounced dead at the scene. Authorities reportedly confirmed that deputies searched the home and surrounding property and found no one else present. Detectives are now working with the Boulder County Coroner's Office to determine the official cause and manner of death. The investigation remains ongoing. Wilcock had built a large online following through his UFO research, alternative theories, and digital content. The news of his shocking death has sparked widespread reaction, with many expressing disbelief, especially in light of his friend's account. In the wake of the incident, many speculation have circulated online, including wild theories linking his death to his UFO research, but these claims remain baseless. Authorities have not confirmed any additional factors, and no official conclusions beyond initial findings have been released. Officials continue to urge reliance on verified information as the investigation proceeds. As questions remain, David Wilcock is being remembered not just for his work, but through the voices of those who knew him personally.
As a center point lineman, I have special training to handle down power lines. If you see a down line, stay at least 35 feet away from it and anything it touches, and call center point energy immediately. Working together, we can help keep our community safe.
Let's take it now several notches higher. We're going to go from the root chakra all the way up to the crown chakra. Up here. We're going to go right up into the Christ consciousness and pray for peace, because that's what we really need. So here we go. Awaken, dear friend, and reclaim your birthright. Deep within you are the answers you seek. You have longed for a solution to the paradoxes that lie before you. Veritably, the golden path to righteousness is there for the taking. It emanates from that very Christ within. You have spent much time toiling in the vineyards, seeking to reap the harvest you have sown. You have sought out universal guidance, perhaps not realizing it was always there inside you. You have lived a life of difficulty, not always seeing. The greatest puzzles have the most elegant answers readily available. This is a time to adhere to the principles of the universal mind. This is is time to enjoy the great reckoning that comes from within the self as you balance the challenges that present themselves to you and restore your foundation once more. The platform upon which you stand is one of love. The glory of that realization reverberates through all of the different phases of your life. The elegance of the approach does not undermine its inherent difficulty, as you are challenged each and every day with distractions threatening your focus. To make right with the universe is to embrace and accept that peace that surpasses understanding. You are fundamentally redefined by the infinite consciousness that is always available. This moment in time stretches out to infinity as you embrace the everlasting presence that exists at the root of all creation. It's pretty beautiful, huh? Standing off for president, says Ron J. Morton. Well, some people, like my dad, probably think that's even better. King Flush, good evening from Norway, Event 11-2011. You're a good hugger. Thank you very much. Embracing this everlasting presence, isn't this great? All right, you guys, thank you. This Christ consciousness is inherently yours to identify, accept, embrace, and enjoy. It's not some hidden arcane secret available only to the select few. It comes the joy of a smile, journey of a good story or a laugh, the wonder of the now. It is there with you more often than you typically realize, as is the nature of all reality. Let's not forget what it takes to approach the throne of the divine within, be accepting, patient, calm, and understanding, to live free from the encumbrances that hinder so many others, and to accept and honor the innate goodness that lies within yourself and all others. Beautiful words, huh? This is really great stuff. Thank you. This is your time to rise and shine from the slumber of innate materiality, the doldrums of despair, the compromises of implicit, the indulgence of duality captivates so many. Seeing the universe for what it really is manifests an ineffable cosmic upgrade within your own being. There can be no greater reality than that of the infinite. And since the infinite is all there is, was, and ever will be, the answers you seek are never far away. Thank you for loving this work. Every door has a keyhole that will allow an opening to occur, providing that you appreciate its mysteries. This infinite consciousness is love, everlasting, and radiates from the center of mind, the farthest reaches of the known and unknown universe, and beyond. Walking through the steps to embrace this process is living the life you were promised by the great ancient masters. You cannot necessarily see that which is everywhere and everywhere, and yet, since it is all there is, the answers are staring at you from every direction. Respect and appreciate the manifest, unmanifest aspects of being is to internalize this great truth and to become it. See, this is kind of hypnotic language, so I'm bringing out stuff that comes from that deep layer of trance, then harmonizes us with that layer so we can experience what that consciousness is really like. It's a little paradoxical and poetic, but it actually helps you get into this hypnotic state. It's very beautiful. There can never be enough time to explore these mysteries of the universe. Your Christ self is an endless, boundless source of love, hope, and rejuvenation. Your own efforts to rise to the occasion will fundamentally transform you in ways you barely can comprehend. I would liken it to an ending, but rather an entirely new beginning, replete with the understandings that only the most diligent seekers can appreciate, opening your heart to the glory of that which is, to effectively transmute the negativity and restore equilibrium within your own life. I don't remember writing this. I mean, honestly, I didn't write this. This is just stuff that it's like I'm reading it for the first time. It's really intense. I just listen. I don't want to pay attention to the words. I just write them down. Just try to stay as high consciousness as possible. So I really like this. I'm happy to put it down. We're right about to hit 333 local time here in Colorado. I guess this is duplicating. I wouldn't like to end it, but rather an entirely new beginning. I think the understanding is that only the most diligent seekers can appreciate. Opening your heart to the glory of that which is to effectively transmute the negativity, restore equilibrium in your own life. For some reason, we need to do that twice. There you go. There it is. See what you guys are saying in the comments. Please take that stupid picture down. Are you kidding? Stupid picture of the president. Shut up now and go to your queen, Wilcock. Okay, sofa king, profound. I guess some of you guys are a little bit behind because of ads and everything, but that's fine. Bye for now. I'll see everyone next week. God bless you, David, Gillian, Andrew, loves us, Suzanne. Sorry to let it go, but happy. We're almost done here. We're going to do 3 hours and 33 minutes. Anyway, this is really the key to the whole thing. So let's keep going. To recognize that you are above no one, below no one. This has happened with the great ineffable mystery of creation, the oneness itself. It is a glorious moment as we come to these understandings. They exist completely outside of time and space, as we now understand. So everybody is one. To gain faith, trust, awareness, and knowingness. The journey is both obscured and illuminated as you can see those moments of silence in between conscious thoughts. Never far from the goal line, and yet comfortable with the eons of preparatory work that led to this moment in time. You gain faith, trust, awareness, sorry, that's another thing. It says I have to copy it today, but anyway, I guess you need to see that twice. There you go. Love your channeling, says Lisa Taylor. Beautiful blessings and gratitude, protection always, unconditional love, brother. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Doing the best we can here, guys. Wade Woodruff says it's been fun, but I gotta run. See you soon. Practical friends holding space for you here in Arizona. Wade, you're one of the best. Thank you, buddy. I'm glad I should have put you in my list on that.
It was the streak seen across the sky, now seen around the world.